I call you, I need you.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome to Evening Talk right here on Salam Media. Your host, my name is Luqman Skink. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been an eventful week in South Africa. In fact, over the last 2 days, we've had major political figures and stalwarts from the community that have passed on. We had Don Matera Omaruddin, and of course, we also had Yasmin Jesse Duarte of the ANC, and of course, making our political sphere, I guess, much weaker. And much lesser for it, and of course, those two individuals having contributed quite a lot to South Africa's freedom, to South Africa's democratic dispensation, and of course, many people have been saddened by their passing. And of course, right here on Salam Media, you may have gotten all the content you needed to know about any of those two. But of course, inshallah, on the program tonight, we have a full program, a full show. And we will be starting off in KwaZulu Natal. And inshallah, my guest is on the line at the moment. And he is Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. He is from the University of the Western Cape. He's a professor of political science and the deputy dean of research. And we're going to be doing a preview of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, who will be holding the provincial conference. That's coming up just after this short break. Stay tuned.
To help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib Black Seed. You can find Tib Black Seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Reliable access to clean water could save thousands of lives each day. With proper sanitation and easy access to fresh, clean water, communities can flourish. Our Thirst Relief Appeal provides clean water to communities in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East by building deep wells and providing sustainable water and hygiene solutions. A monthly donation of as little as 700 Rand could build a well for a community in need. That's only 23 Rand a day. Donate today. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 11 00 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back to the program. And of course, as we said earlier, that, my guest, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, is joining me right now. And he is a professor of political science and the deputy dean of research at the University of Western Cape. And we want to find out from him his thoughts ahead of the ANC provincial conference that will be, that's due to start this weekend from Friday. Prof, a good evening to you, and welcome to Salam Media.
Good evening, my brother, and good evening to your viewers. Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you, Prof. We are actually very excited to be with you this evening. And of course, the load shedding has allowed us to continue without being interrupted.
Yes, thankfully.
Yes. No, Prof. Let's get right into it. The ANC, as I said, is going to be holding the elective conference in KZN this weekend after many delays, and it seems that it is actually going ahead. It seems that this province has had some sort of trouble getting out of the starting blocks compared to other provinces that would have held their elective conferences. What do you make of the stop and start situation there in the KZN provincial conference?
No, thanks for that question, my brother. There are a number of reasons. the most important of which is the fact that KwaZulu-Natal remains the biggest province of the ANC, as much as eThekwini alone becomes the biggest region of the ANC nationally. So therefore, it means that all, as I say, position hopefuls in December are looking forward to what happens in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, in this case, the reason why, for example, this conference had to be postponed last week was because the organization could not reach the threshold of 70% as prescribed by the ANC constitution. So they struggled to make the 70%. As to why that happened, of course, we'll get different reasons. Some will say there were some logistical challenges. Others will cite the impact of flooding that happened and a lot of other things. But the reality of the matter is stakes are too high, and we have to make sure that by the time the conference convenes, we have ironed out all the issues that have a potential to cause some glitches, so that you have a conference and then after that there is a court challenge. So that is what they were trying to avoid.
Okay. Speaking about the high stakes, Prof, we have three front runners. We have the sitting premier, Sihle Zikalala. We have the finance MEC, Nomusa Ngube, and we have a businessman, Sandile Zungu, the owner of Amazulu Football Club, right? Who do you fancy this coming weekend in terms of? I mean, at the end of the day, it is an elective conference. So who do you fancy in terms of winning all the votes?
You know what, my brother, I'll be honest with you. In politics, there is no certainty.
Right.
Because you can have the biggest number of branches supporting you, and then the delegates are given a mandate that they must vote for you, only to find that at the conference venue, things take a different turn. You saw this happening, for example, in 2017 at the ANC's national conference, elective conference, where most of us were thinking that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma had it in the bag until, of course, the the deputy president now, that is Titi Mabuza, changed things at the 11th hour. So basically, then, given that context, there is nothing certain. If you look at the three individuals we've just mentioned, let's start with the premier, that is the current chair, Sihle Zikalala. The incumbency has the good and the bad side of it. On the positive side, if you're an incumbent and you've done very well, people are going to rely on that, and then it will inform their decisions, and they will therefore want to give you another chance, assuming, of course, that you have done well. But then if you have not done well in your position, that is basically a recipe for disaster for you, because people are going to use that against you. So the fact that Sihle Zikalala is the incumbent means that people are going to use those two possibilities, and then they'll make a decision based on that. And then you take MEC Dube Ngube. MEC Dube Ngube is one of the seasoned politicians in KZN, and she enjoys enough support, I would say, which means that she does stand a better chance of winning. But unfortunately, just recently, you might have heard that the Hawks had a brief meeting with her wanting to know certain things. You don't know why that happened, in this case, why that happened and why it happened now. So that is a big question, which means then that there might be people who are scared of her, and then they will do anything and everything to block her from challenging the incumbent, Sihle Zikalala. Then the last candidate, Mr. Zungu, there is something very strange with Mr. Zungu, because initially he indicated that he would like to run against the incumbent, Sihle Zikalala. I'm one of the people, in fact, who applauded him and said, because he doesn't have too much political baggage, then he stands a better chance of doing well. Unfortunately, pulled out. And then only now he has resurfaced, and then formally he has indicated that he's available. And if elected, he's going to push for the reindustrialization of KwaZulu-Natal, and he's going to push for the amendment of the constitution of the ANC in terms of conducting elections, because the majority of the people are left out. So each of them has the strength and the weaknesses, and then it will be up to the delegates as to how they are swayed during the voting time.
Professor, we talk about KZN. It has gone through quite a number of difficulties. We had the floods in recent times. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the ANC said they were delayed with the getting accreditation of all the branches and making sure that they have the 70% threshold. They said, look, the floods, a lot of people are still trying to pick up the pieces, but the economic impact of the floods, the economic impact of the riots last year, or the pro Zuma demonstrations, you can call them what you may, or the insurrection. So KZN has got a lot of challenges. You know, do you think that Sihle Zikalala has what it takes to to pull the province out of its difficulties as the leader of the province, in his role as premier? Or do you think it is now time for a younger, fresher pair of hands and eyes to take over the helm?
Okay, no, for starters, Sihle Zikalala is relatively young. He's amongst the young leaders of the ANC. So in terms of age, there is nothing counting against him. But then the other part of your question is about him being able to deliver, in fact, on the promises that he would have made, or the ones that he has made before. That one remains debatable. Remember that one of the reasons why I'm not 100% sure if he will emerge victorious is because there are people who are of the view that in fact he didn't support the former president Jacob Zuma, and then that of course will have an impact on him, because the RT faction is one of the influential factions, more especially in KwaZulu-Natal. You might have seen how Zandile Gumede emerged victorious. It was primarily because of the RT faction. And then you also, just recently, we had, I have not confirmed this because I was busy with Mandela Day preparations and all of that. But then I've just heard that the former president and the former premier, Willis Mkhunu, are said to be putting their weight behind Mr. Zung. I'm not sure how true that is. But if it were to be true, then obviously that would be a plus on him as well, because then it would mean that the majority of the RT faction members would in fact support him. But I don't know, because I'm not even sure how many delegates will be there, and then if those delegates are reliable, because that is the other point. You may have a branch taking a decision only to find that delegates take a different direction. Like Zoom was saying, in fact, that there is this element within the organization whereby people are bought by money, and therefore they take a decision which is not what which is not contrary to the mandate that they were given by the branches. So that changes the whole.
Right, Prof. I'm going to ask you just one last question because we've run out of time. The issue of the RET faction and the issue of the Jacob Zuma, or the Jacob Zuma factor. You did mention you've just alluded to his his influence, but how strong is the Zuma influence? We've seen KZN leaders that are tripping over each other to show support for Zuma when he goes to his trials in Pietermaritzburg. And it's almost as if he is the Trump of the party in KZN. If you dare to oppose Zuma, it seems you do so at the peril of losing your popularity within the party. So, what is the the impact of the RET faction and Zuma himself, because he is from Nkandla, which is in KZN itself?
You are being generous, my brother, when you say that anyone who opposes Zuma might face challenges. In fact, if you oppose Zuma in KZN, you are digging your own grave, politically speaking, because it does command support. Despite all the issues that he still has to answer to, he still commands a large following in KwaZulu-Natal. Even if he stays in his place at Nkandla, you might have heard just recently the regions of the ANC went to visit him, and a number of people have been frequenting Nkandla, and without him inviting them. They do that at their own volition. So it means they still regard him as one of the trusted members of the ANC and the trusted leaders of the ANC. And one of the reasons for that is because even when he felt that he was being persecuted by his own members, that is the own leader, his own leaders, he didn't ditch the ANC. He even announced that he was never going to leave the ANC. Even when people were saying that he must form his own party, he must turn his back against the ANC, he took a firm position that he was not going to do it. And that is why then people still respect him. And he's down there on the ground. He goes to where people are, and then they see him as one of their own. That is why he still commands such support.
Right. So basically, Professor, you are predicting a strong RET faction that will come out of the elective conference that will be conducted this weekend, And therefore, my last question, I said that was my last. Looking at the elective conference in December, in Nasrec, KZN didn't even show up in terms of the top six. So let's maybe extrapolate what is likely to happen in December.
What's going to happen in December will be informed by what is going to happen at this conference over the weekend. Because the mistake that KZN made in 2017 was that they went to Nasrec being divided. And therefore, it was easier for anyone to go in between and then, of course, widen the gap between them. I was, in fact, talking to some of your colleagues in the media space for the past couple of days, including yesterday when I was at the Nelson Mandela Museum. I was saying that if KZN is serious about the future of the province, and if they are serious about having a representation in the top six of the ANC in December, they have to change their mode of operation. Because what they did in 2017 was suicidal, and therefore they have to do things differently. So that is why this conference is very important, because whatever decisions they make, however they conduct this particular conference, will inform what's going to happen in December, and therefore will inform who will be in the top six come December 2022.
Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate giving your thoughts on the KZN upcoming elective conference. We hope to speak to you again soon, and thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you very much for having me, my brother, and thank you to your listeners.
You're welcome. That was Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. He is the Dean of Deputy Dean of Research at the University of the Western Cape, and of course, Professor of Political Science. And I think particularly in tune with what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal. Many political analysts say that this conference for the party is a do or die situation. They have got to get it right, otherwise they can kiss their dominance in that province goodbye. There are other parties like the IFP that are waiting for the ANC to slip up, and they almost lost eThekwini in the recently ended local government elections. And depending on how well they run the provincial conference, this weekend, it will determine whether the future in that province, and of course their future participation at the December elective conference, the all-important December elective conference of the ANC that will be taking place this year. And in 2017, the KZN delegation did not win any seats in the top six of the ANC. So this is the time for that party, that region to redeem itself. And hopefully by this weekend, we're not going to be hearing too much violence and too much contestation. But we all know too well that things tend to go pear-shaped in the east of the country, particularly when it comes to political contestation. We've seen a lot of violence in that regard, and we certainly pray that there's going to be level heads that there are going to be level heads come this weekend, inshallah. Bringing our time to 31 minutes after 7 Central African time. You are listening to Evening Talk on Salam Media. We'll be back, inshallah, with the continuation of the program